The life of Genos, One Punch Man. Genos is the deuteragonist of One Punch Man. He's a 19-year-old cyborg and the disciple of Saitama. He's always aiming to become more powerful and fights for justice. Under the Hero Association, he's given the name Demon Cyborg and is currently S-Class rank 14. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over the life of Genos. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Early life. At age 15, Genos was a regular boy living a happy and peaceful life with his family. One day, a crazy rampaging cyborg attacked his town, destroying it and killing his family. Genos miraculously survived, but would not have survived long on his own had he not been found by Dr. Kuseno, who happened to be passing through the town in pursuit of the cyborg. Genos begged Dr. Kuseno to transform him into a cyborg, and the scientists complied. Genos was reborn as a cyborg fighting for justice, and promised Dr. Kuseno that one day he would find and destroy the cyborg. For the next 4 years, Genos traveled from town to town defeating monsters and destroying evil organizations, but was unable to find the whereabouts of the mad cyborg. Saitama Introduction Arc. Genos makes his first actual appearance, seeing dead cows sucked dry of their blood, and walking towards Z City following a trail of dead animals. House of Evolution Arc. While Mosquito Girl is in the middle of her rampage in Z City, she notices that quite a few of her mosquitoes have died, and looking down, she spots a form swarmed by mosquitoes. She sends more bugs at the form, but they're all incinerated, revealing Genos. He has a stern expression on his face and declares that he will eliminate Mosquito Girl. Genos fires a blast at her, but she easily dodges his attack and dives at him, taking his arm in the process, but in return he takes out both her legs. Mosquito Girl then flies away and summons all of her mosquitoes to give her their blood. Genos says that her efforts are useless, but is concerned when he sees the amount of bugs gathering around her. As he's about to charge his laser, Saitama comes running out on the street. Genos warns the so-called civilian, but Mosquito Girl's swarm of mosquitoes comes crashing down on them in an instant. Genos releases his heat beam and burns all the bugs, while telling his foe that making them attack in one big chunk makes it far easier to destroy them. He realizes that Saitama was still in the area, but is shocked to see that he's fine, with only his clothes burned. Mosquito Girl, now evolved, rushes down and appears behind Genos, cutting him almost completely in half. Genos then spins around to attack her, but she dodges and begins to attack him continuously, to the point that he attempts to self-destruct in order to kill her. Before that can happen, Saitama ungracefully smacks Mosquito Girl in the face, sending her crashing through a building and into the distance, killing her. Genos, greatly surprised by this, asks Saitama his name and for Genos to become Saitama's disciple. A week later, Genos shows up at Saitama's apartment, having been fully rebuilt, to discuss being Saitama's student. Genos rather long-windedly begins to tell Saitama about his past, but Saitama tells him to come back when he could sum up his story with a max of 10 words. Sometime after, Genos simply asks Saitama to teach him to become strong like him. Saitama warns Genos that it's going to be tough and agrees to train him, but at that moment, Genos turns, saying that he senses a presence moving at high speeds towards them, when Kamakuri smashes through the roof, only to be swiftly killed by Saitama. Genos and Saitama leave the building to find Frogman and Sluggerus on guard. Genos tells his master that he will take care of them, but before he could finish his sentence, Saitama has already smashed both creatures headfirst into the ground. Then Saitama unexpectedly gets dragged down underground until only his head is showing. Genos starts to rush to Saitama's aid, but Armored Gorilla suddenly bursts through the wall behind them. Armored Gorilla then attacks Genos, who easily stops the attack. He says that he needs to ask the creature some questions. He then notices Beast King approaching Saitama, who's still buried, and goes to help him, but gets grabbed by Armored Gorilla, who he then blasts away, and starts to run to Saitama again. Armored Gorilla attacks again and Genos is forced to jump away. The cyborg reveals that he's affiliated with the House of Evolution. Genos recognizes the name and asks what they want of his teacher. Armored Gorilla doesn't reply and simply states that he must destroy Genos. Saitama is then shown taking out Beast King and Ground Dragon and approaching Genos, who's standing on an incapacitated Armored Gorilla, having defeated him in an off-screen fight. After showing Armored Gorilla that Saitama has killed Beast King, he agrees to tell them whatever they wanted to know. Armored Gorilla reveals the history of Dr. Genos and the House of Evolution. He summarizes that the Doctor has taken an interest in Saitama's body, and Genos clarifies that he wants to use Saitama's godlike physique to build the new human. As they take off to the House of Evolution's base, Genos asks some last questions. He asks about the House's involvement with cyborgs, and Armored Gorilla replies that he's the only cyborg of the organization, which disappoints Genos. 4 hours later, Genos and Saitama have arrived at the House of Evolution's base. When they find it, Genos promptly destroys the building and part of a mountain in the distance. Saitama is surprised by Genos' quick action and notices a hatch on the floor and rips it open before he and Genos head down into the lair. As they're walking down the hallway, Genos notices several life forms, 2 of which are coming at them at high speed. Carnage Kabuto appears, carrying Dr. Genos, who then points out Saitama, identifying him as Carnage Kabuto's target. Carnage Kabuto then throws Dr. Genos to the side and smashes Genos against the wall. The creature challenges Saitama to a fight, and he agrees on the grounds that Carnage Kabuto made Genos look like modern art. Carnage Kabuto then shows Saitama to a rather large room, and they're about to fight, but Genos suddenly appears and blasts Carnage Kabuto. Genos then rushes at Carnage Kabuto and hits him with a barrage of punches, but it doesn't affect the monster and he smashes Genos in the face, throwing him into the ground and causing his face to crack and his left eye to fall out. Saitama catches him and says he'll handle the fight, but Genos, stubborn as he is, sends a devastating blast at Carnage Kabuto. However, the opponent uses his breath to blow the attack back and blasts Genos instead, causing Genos' hair to puff up into an afro. Saitama gets serious and proceeds to challenge Carnage Kabuto, but the latter stops his assault when he detects Saitama's abnormally high strength and questions Saitama about the source of that strength. Saitama decides to reveal the secret to his power. Genos is amazed and is eager to finally know, but inwardly questions whether it's wise to divulge the secret to his enemies. Saitama explains that it's simply the result of hard work and training, and obviously Genos doesn't buy it and is skeptical. I would be too if I heard such a simple workout regimen, but whatever. He tries to persuade Saitama to let him know the real secret, but Saitama simply replies that it's just that. Carnage Kabuto goes berserk and pummels Saitama, but he unexpectedly delivers just one punch to the monster and destroys him. After Carnage Kabuto's death, Genos shows Dr. Genos that Saitama was upset about being unable to make the supermarket special sale on time and tells Saitama that they'll be able to make it if they arrive in 4 hours. After the two leave, officers of the Hero Association find the results of Genos' blast that destroyed the top 8 floors of the House of Evolution and identify Genos as the perpetrator of that blast. Paradise Group Arc. After his fight with Carnage Kabuto, Genos is getting repaired by Dr. Kuseno, who suggests that his next round of upgrades, the ones Genos uses in his fight with Saitama, would enable him to defeat Saitama. Genos then visits Saitama and reveals to Saitama that he's not famous because he never registered himself with the Hero Association. He tells the history of the association to Saitama, and they agree in getting them both registered. National Superhero Registry Arc. Genos and Saitama sign up at the 6th official Hero Certification exam venue. After he finishes the physical and written exam, he's greeted by Saitama in the changing rooms. They agree on how both tests were super easy and that they'll probably get full points too. Genos was also interviewed on whether he was the one who destroyed the House of Evolution's building. Genos confirms this, and the officials make an exception and immediately promote Genos to S-Class based on prior experience. An hour later, they receive their scores, revealing that Genos received a perfect 100 and is certified as an S-Class hero, though he wonders what that is. Genos becomes enraged when he hears that his teacher scored 71 points, ranking him as a C-Class. They are then told to go to the lecture hall for a seminar of the successful candidates. As they arrive in Hall 6, they are congratulated by A-Class hero Snek. He gives them some advice on being a hero and the rankings, though Genos isn't interested in it. As they leave the seminar, Genos is glad that he finally became a real disciple of Saitama and counts on his guidance, though Saitama isn't actually glad about it. They part ways soon after. The next day, Genos and Saitama appear around a mountain area, with Genos sporting new black mechanical arms. Genos checks his phone, stating that they're at the last place of their respective classes, and that they didn't receive hero names yet. He puts the matter aside and thanks Saitama for accepting his unreasonable request. The two prepare for battle, though Saitama believes it to be a sparring match. However, Genos will attack with everything he's got. Genos positions in a battle stance and aims his left arm at Saitama, ports on his arm open, revealing several cannons. He fires a single massive beam at Saitama. As it reaches Saitama, he dodges it. However, Genos immediately retaliates by dashing towards Saitama. He takes a hold of Saitama and crashes him to the mountain, punching several times across the wall of the mountain. But he soon realizes that he was attacking Saitama's afterimage. Genos immediately detects that Saitama is running away and intercepts by landing in front of him and firing a massive beam. Genos believes he hit and defeated Saitama, only to have Saitama poke him in the cheek from behind and proclaiming victory. Genos becomes angry and attacks him, but Saitama jumps away unscathed. Genos then reminds Saitama of the rules of the fight, one of which is to continue fighting until he's unable to. They continue the fight in hopes that he will gain insight into Saitama's power. However, Saitama shows impressive fighting prowess and lunges to punch Genos, but instead flicks him and invites Genos to eat udon. Genos watches Saitama walk away, as he's still flabbergasted of the force of the last punch that destroyed a mountain behind him, realizing his teacher is on a whole nother level. Yo, the way they animated that scene was just so cool. As Genos and Saitama visit an udon shop, Saitama decides to challenge him to a spicy udon eating contest, which ends with Genos the victor and the two tied in competition results. Sweet Mask then meets with Genos, who assumes that he'd come to rookie beat him and tells him to stop wasting his time, but Sweet Mask denies this and simply states that he met with him to welcome him to the association. Saitama and Genos part at a bridge and walk in opposite directions, initially implying that the two would walk separate paths as heroes. This is later disaffirmed when Genos simply returned to pack his belongings to move into Saitama's apartment. Saitama does not agree to, though he changes his mind when Genos offers to pay him rent money. Rumored Monster Arc. Genos then proceeds to write in his diary on his teachings. Genos then informs him that C-class heroes will be excluded from the hero registry as they are not deemed worthy by the registry if they do not work. Saitama, shocked at the discovery, decides to do heroic deeds, because he was a lazy ass before this. Genos wants to accompany him but is convinced by Saitama to aim towards the top 10 rankings of the S-class, as Saitama believes that if Genos were to accompany him, he would inadvertently steal all the credit with his mere presence. While Saitama was cooking kombu plucked from Kombu Infinity, Genos wonders why there's a pile of kombu outside, which Saitama tells him it was cheaper. Because he killed the man and ate him. Oh my god. Oh jeez, Saitama's so crazy. Genos asks Saitama if he thought that kombu will let him regrow his hair, and tells him that it will actually not, as it was not proven as a genuine medicine. So Genos gets an angry response from the infuriated Saitama. Giant Meteor Arc. Saitama and Genos are relaxing and reading the newspaper. Genos states that Saitama went up in the C-class rankings from rank 388 to rank 342, and that while he's still last in the S-class ranking, in popularity he's ranked 6 by public votes, shocking Saitama. Then he mentions several comments about him, but isn't impressed since they're all only based on one single picture of him. Even though the world doesn't acknowledge it, he's still astounded by Saitama, which creeps him out. Genos receives a call to go to the Hero Association for unknown reasons. When he arrives at the Z-City branch with a suitcase, he's greeted by the third-ranked S-class hero Bang, who reveals that the Hero Association ordered a mass evacuation and that he and Genos are the only S-class heroes who showed up to prevent the disaster. He explains that they were given an impossible task. A dragon-level disaster is coming to Z-City in the form of a giant meteor. Genos is advised by Bang to evacuate before the meteor impacts. Genos wonders what Bang's going to do, which he replies that he decided to protect his dojo, but as he turns around to show his fighting style, Genos has already left. Genos is later shown to be leaping from rooftops, observing the panic, and prepares himself for an attempt to stop the meteor. Genos activates his armored suitcase and throws it in the air, forming it into a pair of arms that attaches to himself, surging electricity through his body. As he decides to destroy the meteor in order to protect his teacher, a large humanoid unmanned drone flies above him towards the point of arrival of the meteor. Genos reveals the large robot to be another S-class hero named Bofoy, and asks for his help in stopping the meteor. Bofoy refuses and states that he's only there to test a new weapon system. He also advises Genos to call fellow heroes by their hero names in professional situations, reiterating his own hero name, Metal Knight. The meteor looms closer, so Genos runs off to a different roof and prepares himself to attack the meteor. Before he can do anything though, Bofoy lets off a massive volley of missiles, which in the end do nothing to stop or slow down the meteor. Genos starts to prepare, but also starts to doubt his abilities when Bang shows up and calms him down. Genos thinks of Saitama and comes back to his senses. He opens up his chest to reveal his power core, which he attaches directly into the shoulder of his left arm. He tells Bang to get down and then launches a massive attack at the meteor. His attack doesn't do anything to the meteor, unfortunately, and Genos runs out of power and collapses on the roof. Saitama shows up and destroys the meteor, causing pieces of it to rain on the city, while Bang carries Genos to safety. Genos makes a brief appearance at the end of the arc in his and Saitama's apartment, regretting his inability to stop the meteor. After a short discussion, he reveals that his rank has been increased from 17 to 16, Bofoy's from 7 to 6, and that Saitama has been raised from rank 342 of the C-class to rank 5 of the C-class. He also explains the disaster level system. When Saitama decides to go out to check the damage, Genos stays behind. Genos is seen looking up comments on the website about Saitama destroying the meteor, then later stopping Saitama from getting all worked up from someone calling him bald by saying they should go home. He later tells Saitama that even though the whole world would go against him, he would continue to follow him. Sea Monster Arc. Genos is in their apartment discussing Saitama's rank after he killed the sea folk from the other day. When he was about to explain the top B-class hero, he gets a call that J City is under attack and there were no competent heroes nearby to help. He and Saitama head out to J City despite it being a little far away from where they're living. Genos and Saitama ran towards J City in the pursuit of the Sea Folk, but Genos decided to go ahead of Saitama. On his way, he met a naked speed of sound Sonic who had just escaped from the Deep Sea King and was told he stood no chance against the monster before he disappeared. He was the first to arrive in the evacuation shelter where the Deep Sea King just took down 4 heroes. Genos uses Incinerate on the Deep Sea King, punching him out of the shelter with a crowd later cheering for him. Unfortunately, Genos lets his guard down and gets one of his arms ripped off. He tells the people to run while he distracts the monster since victory is no longer assured. He puts up a fight and trades blows until he was hit by the Deep Sea King's acid spit to save a girl, melting his body, which ultimately disabled him. Genos was then punched by the Deep Sea King out of the shelter. Right before he was about to be finished, Moomin Rider came and engages the Deep Sea King. Genos begs Moomin Rider to leave and struggles to get up to save him. However, Saitama arrives and easily defeats the Deep Sea King with a single punch. In the aftermath, the people were thankful, but one criticized heroes for being defeated by the monster despite their efforts. Genos angrily tries his best to get up to intervene, but he's too weak to get up. Annoyed by this, Saitama pretended to take all the credit by himself, with the purpose of giving credit to those who gave their all. Realizing this, Genos' respect towards his teacher grew more. After the incident, Genos and Saitama get a delivery of fan mail from the Hero Association. Genos is praised while Saitama gets a hateful letter, calling him a cheat. Genos, angered by the letter, states he will find the senders. Like I said, friggin' Genos is loyal as hell. Alien Conquerors Arc. Genos and Saitama are at Bong's dojo where they are demonstrated the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist and are asked to join, to which Genos refuses. Bong's top disciple, Chiranko, was angered by their statement and challenges Genos, who Genos quickly defeats. Suddenly, a Hero Association staff member arrives, informing Bong and the others that an emergency summons has been issued to S-Class heroes. Genos arrives at the Hero Association with Bong and Saitama. They're greeted by Atomic Samurai. He later goes to the roof of the Hero Association headquarters with Child Emperor, Super Alloy Darkshine, Tatsumaki, and King. There, he asks Tatsumaki if he can help, only to be declined. Afterwards, Genos appears beside Child Emperor and Drive Knight and is told by Drive Knight not to trust Metal Knight. Later, when Metal Knight's robot appears, Genos asks what Metal Knight's intentions are. Genos is relieved when he sees that Saitama is okay after the crash. However, soon Tatsumaki erupts into a fit of anger for being ignored and begins insulting Saitama. Genos retaliates by calling her a brat, which is unfortunate because Tatsumaki didn't take that comment nicely and launches Genos at a large chunk of debris. Because, you shouldn't mess with Tatsumaki. The King Arc. While shopping with Saitama in M City, Genos recognizes King on the streets when suddenly a robot monster by the name of G4 appears to fight King. Genos proposes to watch the fight to see King's abilities. After King fled the scene, Genos begins fighting G4. Because the fight between the two will take a little longer, Genos advises Saitama to go without him. During their fight, Genos melts the robot only to reveal a smaller pilot inside. He proceeds to fight the robot, catching him in a trap and defeating G4. Garou Introduction Arc. Genos then went to Dr. Kuseno with the remains of G4 to get repairs. Genos tells Dr. Kuseno that he wants to become stronger. Dr. Kuseno replies that Genos' master has given Genos a very reckless goal and asks whether Genos can bring Saitama next time Genos comes. Their conversation continues with the discussion of the cyborg that destroyed Genos' hometown. Dr. Kuseno asks Genos whether he found any clues about the cyborg's whereabouts, which Genos replies with no. However, Genos reaffirms that he will destroy the cyborg once he finds him. Dr. Kuseno reminds Genos that he's not alone and that the conflict with Mad Cyborg is their conflict, and not just Genos's. The Blizzard Group Arc. While at home, Genos informs Saitama about their promotions in their respective ranks. Knowing Saitama doesn't report his work, Genos believes his master is finally being recognized. Genos suddenly senses something coming towards their place and wants to check it out, which is revealed to be Speedosound Sonic, who claims himself as Saitama's rival. Not wanting to disturb a busy Saitama, Genos decides to take him down on his own. They're on equal footing, with Sonic too fast for him, but he too durable for his attacks. As he tried to land a blow against Sonic, he accidentally catches Fubuki, who's fighting Saitama, in the way with its impact. Saitama asks him what's going on, and he replies with an apology for messing up the place. He suddenly recognizes Fubuki and misinterprets her position as a failed attempt of taking down Saitama. Fubuki was surprised that he, an S-class hero, actually called himself a disciple of a B-class Saitama. Sonic attacks him again, this time with exploding shuriken, but is unharmed. Despite his loss in speed after this, he's durable enough to take all of Sonic's attacks and decides to increase his speed to catch up. Sonic barely evades this attack, but Genos manages to cut off his hair. This angers Sonic severely, and he stops taking the fight lightly. Sonic uses Four Shadows Burial, thus preventing Genos from tracking Sonic. As a last resort, Genos decides to blow up the general area. However, Saitama knocks down Genos before the cyborg can do so. Saitama then brings the fight into his own hands. While watching Sonic fight Saitama, Genos admits Sonic must have worked hard to gain his abilities. Afterwards, Genos, Fubuki, and Saitama go to Saitama's apartment and listens to Fubuki discuss her ideology. Hero Hunt Arc. Genos is seen talking to Chiranko at Saitama's apartment. He reveals that Garou has been put on the Hero Association's wanted list of vicious monsters, and that Bong has volunteered to get rid of Garou. When Saitama comes back with a wig, Genos comes to believe that Saitama is very desperate and calls Dr. Kuseno to make an appointment to give Saitama a hair transplant. Saitama then explains that it's simply a disguise for the tournament and invites Genos to come to the tournament with him at Sea City. Monster Raid Arc. Genos goes to the Super Fight tournament in Sea City to spectate over Saitama at the tournament. He claps for Saitama during Saitama's introduction and was noticed by the spectators. Upon watching the victory of Saitama against Zakos, Genos comments that the tournament will end before Saitama could learn any martial arts. After witnessing Suryu's victory against A-class hero Lightning Max, he wonders the number of people with the power that exceeds that of A heroes and wonders if Suryu's abilities will satisfy Saitama's desire to fight. Genos receives information about the attacks of an unknown group of monsters in the cities that are targeting heroes. In addition, there are monsters in Sea City, thus Genos has to do his hero work to eliminate the monsters while Saitama focuses on the tournament. After Genos eliminates the monsters near the stadium, he calls the local branch of the Hero Association about the remaining monsters in Sea City and has them guide him to them one at a time. He easily defeats many monsters and eventually encounters Face Ripper just as the monster is about to kill a civilian. Face Ripper manages to chip away parts of Genos' arm, but Genos ultimately catches the monster off guard and is able to land a fatal blow. Genos is called again by the Association about the location of Awakened Cockroach. During the fight with Awakened Cockroach, the monster was able to block and dodge every attack by Genos, while sending out his own attacks. During their fight, Awakened Cockroach has the upper hand, until Genos decides to use instant adhesive to trap the monster, just in case if Genos encounters a speedster villain like that monster, including Sonic. However, before Genos could kill the monster, Awakened Cockroach sacrifices his feet to get away. Furthermore, before Genos could make up his mind about returning to the stadium, another being rushes to Genos. Genos was later seen defeated by Goketsu, while on his way to the Sea City Super Stadium. Okay, before I move on to the next arc, this whole cockroach talk reminds me of Terraform Mars. Let me know if you've seen that anime, because that's literally super-powered cockroaches from Mars, alright? Thanks. Super Fight Arc. Genos wakes up after being defeated by Goketsu. Genos decides to call for Dr. Kuseno's body recovery drones while noting that Goketsu is on a whole different level. He's later seen being carried by a recovery drone to get to Dr. Kuseno to repair his damaged body, while analyzing the situation that he needs to get back to fight Goketsu, and in order to defeat him, it requires several S-class heroes and Saitama himself to gang up on him to defeat him. However, unknown to Genos, Saitama has already sent Goketsu's head flying. Monster Association Arc. Genos is fully repaired by Dr. Kuseno, who spent the whole night fixing him. Genos thanks him for his efforts and states he will never lose again, to which Dr. Kuseno tells Genos to be careful and not to do anything reckless. After receiving an emergency call from Glasses, who is part of Death Gatling's failed ambush on Garou, Genos arrives to fight the already weakened Garou. Genos and Garou's fists collide midair, propelling Garou back. Genos follows up his attack with his machine gun blows, giving Garou a tough go of it. Garou retaliates with his flowing water rock smashing fist, but Genos ducks and strikes him with a punch that's propelled by a booster integrated into his elbow. Garou intercepts the attack, then counters with a left knee to Genos' head. The attack sends Genos into the ground and Garou prepares to land the devastating blow. However, Genos fires an incineration blast through the ground, to which Garou just barely manages to evade. Genos gets back up by thrusting himself upward with rockets built on his back, and he intently observes and analyzes Garou's movements. Genos tells Garou to surrender, as Garou's legs are about to give out. Instead, Garou jumps up into the trees and changes his movements to mimic that of Watchdog Man. Genos is momentarily caught off guard by this change of battle style, and Garou uses this moment to rip off Genos' right arm. Fortunately, Genos' arm is still operational, and the right arm grabs Garou's neck. Genos activates the arm's rocket boosters and slams Garou into a tree, using wires to then trap Garou in the process. Genos lifts his arms and prepares to fire his incineration cannon, but Garou pushes his legs onto the tree and breaks it apart, saving himself from the blast. Genos prepares another attack, but from the ground. A horde of monsters tunnels out of the ground to save Garou and simultaneously attack Genos, but the monsters are all swiftly defeated. Genos, surprised at Garou's connections to the Monster Association, confidently states that he won't be taken by surprise, and he's beginning to understand what his teacher Saitama meant by training the mind. Once Genos declares that Saitama is the strongest hero for the third time, Genos readies his incineration cannon, but this time, the one to intervene is none other than Bang and Bomb. Genos is surprised to see both present, and he proceeds to do battle with other monsters still flooding out of the hole in the ground. Despite all of the visible monsters being defeated, Genos still detects signals of monster activity but could not discern their numbers or location. He wonders if the hole left by the monsters led to the Monster Association. Garou manages to create an opening for Phoenix Man to swoop in and save him by destroying the entire ground and swinging a large tree. Genos fires a spiral incineration cannon at Phoenix Man and Garou after stating Garou being monsters now with comrades. Elder Centipede bursts out from the ground, intercepting Genos' attack while sustaining no damage. Elder Centipede causes havoc as the ground cracks and the unconscious heroes from Death Gatling's ambush fall into the crevice. Bang and Bomb save them. Elder Centipede begins to chase all three of them, and Genos fires targeted blasts at Elder Centipede's eyes, temporarily blinding him. Bang and Bomb perform a combination attack, Roaring Aura Sky Ripping Fist, using the respective martial arts. Genos is amazed at the power behind the attack, but it wasn't enough as Elder Centipede molts and recovers damage done to it. The fighters decide that they cannot retreat out of the park as they'll put the civilians in danger and they need to save the unconscious heroes from Death Gatling's ambush. While Genos declares that he'll battle the monster and that the others should save the injured, Bang and Bomb reassure him that the future should belong to the young like him and he shouldn't be reckless. Their words echo Dr. Caseno's sentiments earlier, but Genos questions if that's really enough for the situation. The answer Genos comes up with is that no, it's nowhere near enough, and Genos battles the gargantuan monster. Genos puts up an incredibly valiant fight, blasting it with his cannons and wounding Elder Centipede's face with his blades. The monster retaliates by catching Genos with its prehensile antennae and chopping him in half. However, Genos fuses himself back together again mid-air and breaks the monster's teeth with his jet drive arrow. He breaks into Elder Centipede's digestive system and unleashes a super spiral incineration cannon, burning it from the inside. Flames and smoke pour out of the holes in Elder Centipede's carapace, but the monster regenerates, dousing the flames and healing its wounds. Genos laments that he had failed once again and he couldn't protect anyone. Destroyed from his battle, Genos is picked up by Bang and they retreat with the other injured. Genos questions what he lacks and whether he can truly contribute facing monsters on the level of Elder Centipede. Elder Centipede gives chase and Bang sets Genos down. Bang decides to confront the monster in an all-or-nothing match. Luckily, King catches Elder Centipede's attention by mentioning Blast and baits it for Saitama to land a serious punch, obliterating Elder Centipede without leaving a single trace. Genos, still uncertain from his earlier questioning, asks Saitama what he lacks. He responds that Genos lacks power, which he notes down in his acid-proof memo. Genos thinks that Saitama is showing him the way forward and that he's aiming for the symbol of strength. Later on, Genos is in Saitama's apartment fixing himself. Fubuki arrives and Genos remains aloof to her presence. Genos explains to her that his transmitter got destroyed in a previous battle and that he needs to fix himself up before anything. As he doesn't want to impose on Dr. Caseno, who spent the whole night rebuilding Genos, Genos will wait for him to rest before properly fixing himself. Genos remains in Saitama's apartment as he leaves to find Garou and buy cabbage. Genos is briefly seen during Dr. Genos' explanation into limiters. Genos watches the game King plays, but mistakes it for battle simulations and believes he is too early to participate in those simulations. Saitama returns and is depressed over losing his wallet and cabbage. Genos is about to go out and find these lost items, but Fubuki comes back with cabbage in hand. As Saitama and Fubuki argue, Genos believes that she wishes to become a disciple as well, which he planned to stop. Before he could, he detects high-speed activity and concludes that King should confront this enemy. King returns with Dr. Caseno in his battle armor, who is worried about the distress signal Genos sent out earlier. They meet and greet each other and prepare the ingredients for a hot pot whereby Genos will cut the vegetables. Genos, Saitama, Bang, Bomb, Fubuki, King, and Dr. Kuseno all stare at the delicious hot pot. Oh my god, I need hot pot right now. They all fight for the food, and Genos intercepts Fubuki by taking the beef. They argue, and Dr. Kuseno is happy that Genos has found friends, but Genos firmly clarifies that Fubuki is not a friend. Genos continues, commanding others not to be greedy with Saitama's food towards the night. Genos leaves to be fixed up by Dr. Kuseno and returns the next day to Saitama's apartment. He contemplates his new form, which heavily focuses on power at the cost of stability. It's to the point where if Genos goes full power for over 10 seconds, the core will explode and kill Genos. On the way, he meets Fubuki and they find Saitama missing. King, Bang, and Bomb arrive, and Genos decides to join the raid against the Monster Association. So that King isn't delayed, Genos decides to wait for Saitama at the apartment while the rest head off to attack the base. While washing dishes, Genos feels the impact of Saitama's punch on Overgrown Rover. He eventually decides to head out, and on his way to the Monster Association base, he rescues Sekkengar and Drive Knight from an attack by G5, instantly destroying its core. He offers to carry Sekkengar and the other injured heroes out of Z City to safety. He also notices that Drive Knight has defeated Nyan, though he hasn't killed him. Nyan moans that he would have never joined the Monster Association if he knew there were powerful monsters that could even kill monsters in one punch, tipping Genos off that Saitama has already entered the Monster Association's underground base and that Nyan has encountered him. Genos makes a mad sprint with a cluster of heroes attached to his back, defeating several monsters along the way before finally arriving at a Hero Association military convoy. There, Sekkengar puts him on the phone with Sitch, who expresses his gratitude to Genos. Genos, however, is unamused and claims he won't take any more orders from him. Sekkengar then gives Genos some of Drive Knight's intel on the Monster Association, which he analyzes as he runs back to Z City towards the base. Later on, before Genos is able to make it into the Monster Association headquarters, Tatsumaki lifts the entire base out of the ground while combating the fusions of Psychos and Orochi. After collecting himself from being caught in the debris, Genos encounters King and Tadio, who are forcefully ejected out of the water elevator inside the base. Genos wonders what King is doing and asks him where Saitama is, since he believes that he should have joined the battle by now. They are then surrounded by the mass left over from Orochi, which launches an attack on them in need of blood, though Genos quickly dispatches the surrounding mass with his arm lasers. He then senses a massive lifeform at the top of the tower that was ripped out of the ground. Tatsumaki emerges with a fusion of Psychos and Orochi following closely behind. Despite King's suggestion to leave the fighting to Tatsumaki, Genos joins the battle, saving Tatsumaki by launching an energy beam to intercept Psychos' attack. He then sprints up the uprooted Monster Association headquarters with blinding speed, launching his new move, Thunder Drill Cannon, at Psychos' monster form. However, he's pushed back and is forced to launch a series of smaller beams to counter Psychos' dragons. Tatsumaki angrily tells Genos to get out of the way, stating that King left her this responsibility, but he responds that King only left her the job until Saitama's arrival, adding that it's the disciple's duty to help with the teacher's work. He then tells her to attack Psychos' body while he handles her energy beams, wondering if he's able to last that long considering that he's already at maximum power output. Oh, what happens next? Well, we'd have to continue this on a later date, but did you enjoy our video? Be sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.